Senator Lakesia Collins is a tireless champion for the residents she serves in the Illinois General Assembly. Appointed in 2023, she represents Illinois' 5th Senate District, representing Chicago's West Side. Prior to that, she served as state representative for the Illinois 9th House District. As an advocate for workers, she's led the fight for a fair wage and working conditions for thousands of our service workers. She's a mom, a fighter, and our next guest on In My Own Words. Welcome to another episode of In My Own Words. I'm your host, Corey Tins, and with me in the studio today, I have my friend, Senator of the 5th District of Illinois, Lakesia Collins. Senator, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Corey, for having me.
You said finally, huh?
Finally, I'm here.
I'm so happy to have you. You have one of the most inspirational stories that I've heard. And this show is about embodying the stories of leaders that I respect and look up to. And wanting it to be a living place where folks can come and hear more about you. So I'm really excited to have you on today.
I'm excited to be here. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Good. So I like to start every episode with a lightning round of questions.
Okay.
So they recently announced their tour. So Brandy and Monica. So I got to ask, Brandy or Monica, and we're talking about just catalog.
Brandy.
Okay. Why?
That's my girl. Brandy have a long list of catalogs, honey. She got me through some really dark moments as a young person. Her music is still alive and well today. Mm-hmm. I think it's album after album. You see like the different levels of Brandy, her maturity. Her music tells a story. Yeah. And I resonated a lot with her. And so, yes, she's my favorite.
Do you have a favorite Brandy song?
Never Say Never. Yes, okay. Never Say Never.
You want to sing a little bit of it? No.
Never say never. Now let me stop playing. I'm the karaoke queen in Springfield too, but you know.
So, second question is cash money or no limit?
Cash money.
All day.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been mine too.
Cash money.
What is your guilty TV pleasure?
Oh my God. Man, these reality TV shows. I'm just Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Okay. I had a feeling you was going to say that.
I love it. You know, some of the characters, they just, I don't know. Just looking into the lives of some of these celebrities.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that they're relatable, but it just kind of like take me into this whole nother space. But yeah, I would say reality TV is a problem for me.
Okay. You deserve to have a little downtime. So a little reality TV is okay. You get a healthy dose of reality with your job. So.
Exactly. That needs to be a reality TV show, if you ask me.
What is your favorite vacation spot?
Cancun.
Nice.
I love Jamaica, but Cancun was like really the vibes for me.
That's actually mine too.
Yeah, Come on. Let me find out, Corey.
Come on. Who is a leader you look up to and why?
Oh, alive or transition?
It could be either.
Oh, so many great leaders out there. I would say, and it's probably be a little bit, you know, I want to be biased, but I would say Erica Bland. She's the executive vice president of SEIU Healthcare. Mm-hmm. I would say her because she played a really big role in my life. I met her while I was a new mom and didn't know her from day or night. But, you know, full circle, she ended up being very instrumental with me being in this spot today. So,
okay.
And throughout, she has been really a guiding tool for me.
No, shout out to Erica. Yeah. She is dope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then last question is, what's a mantra that you live by?
Oh, man, trust the process.
That's a good one.
I used to say that a lot in my organizing days with healthcare workers because I would go into a nursing home facility, and one of the skills that I picked up from being an organizer with SEIU is that you have to go and assess the building before you get workers to, you know, commit to striking. So you have to build up a lot of different tactics before they make that ultimate decision. And a lot of the times I would just tell them, trust the process. And it was because I went through that as a nursing home worker. And so to kind of see all of those things, you know, play out and then the victory in the end, a lot of those members really understood what that meant. And I hear them talk about it today. And I do that with everything that I do in my life. It's just trust the process.
I love that. I actually needed that word today. So
Yep.
you spoke a word into me today.
Yep. It worked.
Well, thank you for doing our lightning round of questions.
That wasn't bad.
So I like to start every show talking about upbringing. I feel like it is instrumental in shaping who we become. And so you were born and raised on the west side of Chicago. No?
That's the hidden secret.
Ooh, okay.
You know, I love the west side.
Yeah.
It is definitely the best side. But I originally was born on the south side in Inglewood.
Shout out Inglewood.
Yes.
Okay.
Originally.
Okay.
But I have lived out west throughout my journey. So, yes.
Well, then I'm going to reframe my question. How has the south and west side shaped you into who you become?
They're similar to each other in so many ways, but I would say that south side feel, the vibes there, the family-oriented, the sense of community really helped shape me. The west side, the love that folks show each other, the resilience, the history that both sides have really helped to set the tone in me and who I am. So I think they both played a big role. Mom from the south side, dad from the west side. That, connection between those two created a fire sign and a appreciation for both of those communities. I think that's one of the reasons why I fight so hard for the west side, because I know the beauty that exists there. But I also know the pain that folks feel.
I was just going to ask if it influenced your journey now as a legislator.
Yes, it definitely does.
Okay. Okay. I want to start talking about some of your early years. So I've heard your story, and you've spoken very candidly about your early years, losing your mom at a young age, suffering from abuse, being raised by your grandmother, all things that could have taken you down a completely different path, right?
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit about your background and your upbringing for folks that are just becoming familiar with your story?
Oh, yes. I'm an open book, and I see you've been doing your research.
We love open books.
No, I'm serious. It's like once you lose your voice and you gain it, there's nothing or no one that can take it away from you.
Yeah.
And so, yes, my mother was 23 when she had me. I have an older sister, and we're 5 years apart. And I want to say around 4 is when I was in the room with my mom when she took her last breath. She had a rare cancer at the time. There wasn't a lot of research around it from what I was told, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it spread it throughout all of her glands. And a lot of people have asked me, like, how do you remember all of these different stories? And it's like, that's a form of trauma, so you never forget it. And I just remember watching her, lose her hair, wearing this red bandana to cover up her bald head. And I remember hearing my grandmother say, don't get this surgery for whatever reason. And I guess she got it. And, living in my grandmother's house during that time. And then my mother transitioning at 28. She passed away.
Wow.
I wasn't even 5 then. And watching them roll her out to the ambulance from my grandmother's room, I assumed she was coming back, but she never did. And I don't think my family really knew how to explain to me that, she had transitioned on and things like that. So there's just little things that I kind of picked up on my own as a kid. I talked a lot to the sky, but I did experience a lot of abuse. I had uncles and aunties who, suffered from substance abuse, alcoholism, and oftentimes I was at the end, the short end of the stick. I remember being in 3rd grade and I had 2 black eyes one summer. And that was because of one of my uncles who needed some extra money to get his alcohol, and my grandmother who was suffering from diabetes, and she was a stroke survivor. I remember sitting there and hearing her tell him, look, I don't have it. And I must have spoke up at the wrong time, and I paid for it. And I learned how to, cover up, should I say, for them, for the abuse. I experienced sexual abuse from, an aunt, her boyfriend who lived there. That was the first time I experienced, being told that, you're a liar, even though he was caught.
Yeah.
And I was given an opportunity to tell the truth, and I told. And then the people who were supposed to protect me, supposed to love me, pretty much flipped the script on me, spoke all types of negative things about me as a young person. And that really stuck with me for a long time. And so I couch surfed a lot. I found friends in school. Didn't really have a stable school. I went to probably 9 different schools before I settled in Maywood. But one of the schools that I went to prior to Maywood was Waubonsie Valley High School. I went there 1 year. Didn't have enough time to make a lot of friends.
That's out in Naperville?
That's in Aurora. And then I went back to Chicago. I went to DuSable for my sophomore year. Didn't have enough time to make a whole lot of friends, but I made enough to where I could sleep on their couches. I joined a lot of sports teams to stay away from home because the aunt that I was living with used to take me with her to go get her drugs. The drug dealer that she was getting it from was a classmate, right? So I used to have to see him the next day in school.
Yeah.
And that was really embarrassing. And so I finally just told. I told a softball coach, her name is Miss Nichols. I confided in her, and she immediately took action. And I remember her taking me to 63rd and Emerald, which is an intake center for kids, youth in care. And my life changed after that. I got placed with a foster family in Maywood. I stayed there my junior and senior year. And June 4th, 2004, I was on my own, but I was still a part of the system.
Yeah.
And then I got pregnant at 20 when I was attending South Suburban College. Dropped out, got a CNA certification, and then my activism started from there.
So you've been all over the Chicagoland region.
Chicago and the west suburbs. You're talking about Glen Ellen, Wheaton, Aurora, Naperville, you name it, I was there. And it really shaped a lot of my experiences on what a community would look like if it was fully resourced. They had all the tools and things that they needed for a school system to actually work. Because I went to schools that had nurses in a school, that had an actual clinic. I went to schools that didn't have it. I went to schools that had a track field, that had football teams. I went to schools that didn't have it. I lived in neighborhoods where the grasses, everybody's grass was cut short. Yeah. Every house looked nice and well kept. Every, green open space looked nice. And I lived in communities where all you seen was vacant lots and liquor stores, churches. So I got a taste of all of that.
You really saw the tale of two cities.
Yes. And I've been around so many different people, white, black, Asian, Island Pacific, you name it. And so my lens that I look through is through all of those different experiences. And I think that's one of the reasons why people don't understand me.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I want to talk about the different sections of your life that you went through. But you touched on this when you were talking about going to school and having 2 black eyes and hiding it. And I think oftentimes, especially in African-American families, we're taught you don't tell
what's going on at home.
Yeah. And so you at an early age were given almost an adult-like responsibility of having to protect all of these adults. And so how were you grappling with that while still trying to navigate the loss of your mom, being in a situation where you're clearly uncomfortable, you're going through all of these things, but you still feel the urge and maybe necessity to protect these folks?
It's true when they say that sometimes the victim protect the abuser. That is true. Because I understood at a very young age that when I would see my uncle or aunt, put a bottle to their lips or go in the bathroom and this weird smell would come out and her behavior would change or his behavior would change, I knew something was wrong. I knew that it changed their personality and how they treated me. Yeah. And so at a very young age, for whatever reason, I just didn't hold that against them. I didn't understand at the time what that was, but as when I got older, I understood then, like, oh, they were addicted. They were sick. They were hiding some type of pain, and they used these drugs and this alcohol to pretty much make it go away. But it was only temporary solutions. And whenever I got caught up in being the punching bag, that wasn't my uncle. Yeah. That wasn't my aunt. That wasn't my cousin. And I spent many Christmases in my grandmother's house where you and your cousins, y'all do something, you get blamed for it. I knew then I had no protection because I didn't have a mother. My cousins, their mom was there, but oftentimes she was the one saying, like, take her toys back if all the kids got in trouble. And she would say her kids' toys are getting taken back, but then Christmas Day, they're opening up their toys. I remember one Christmas, my grandmother was just like, yo, why you keep doing this, you know? And I just didn't understand it, but I never grew any hate for these people, right? For my family. I never had any hate for them. I just knew something wasn't right. I knew that, you know, I didn't have protection. I didn't feel protected. I knew that I needed to get out of there. And so I used to count ahead, like, okay, I'm going to be 15 this year. I'm going to be 18 this year.
I got 47 days.
Right? Yeah, like I used to count it out, right? And I dreamed a lot. I used to do a lot of daydreaming, and I listened to a lot of different music to get me through it. And I wrote a lot of poetry. Again, I joined a lot of sports teams, and it was just to distract me from being around a lot of the things that I had to experience one way or another when I went back home. And so I tried to commit suicide at 13 and 18 because those pressures, right? Yeah. Because I think for me, it was just a easy way out. It was like, nobody wants me anyway. I would rather leave this place. I didn't see any hope. But it was always somebody that I feel that I was blessed with, to cross paths with, that spoke positive things into me, that saw something in me and encouraged me to take a different route. And I never forget those people. And so my motivation at that time was to become independent, to break the curse, to not become what I experienced, and to be open, to be honest, to tell my story, which was one of the things that I learned to do going through this process, and to never back down from a challenge. Because when you're beat down on for so long, when someone tells you that, I'm gonna be clear, I was told by my mother's sister, her baby sister, that you're not going to be good for anything but laying on your back. You're going to have 14 kids. Wow. You're not going to be anybody. And mind you, I'm 9 years old at the time. Those words stuck with me. I graduated school on time. I went to college. Yeah, I put my education on hold because I got pregnant. But I'm now sitting as a state senator. Yeah. And I beat all the odds.
Talk about full circle.
Right? And I don't have any ill feelings towards any of the people who harmed me, because my greatest revenge was to allow the process to play out and trust the people that God put in my life to get to where I am today.
Let me ask you this, because so often, especially with folks that experience abuse, and you go through life and, you know, and I don't know if you've ever done therapy or things like that, you talk about the importance of forgiveness. How important has forgiveness for those folks been for you in kind of being able to release that to a certain degree? I know it sticks with you, but being able to release it and still be able to like move on.
It's done a lot for me, honestly. It's like a big weight taken off your shoulders. And also it helps, you know, with how you deal with people moving forward. Yeah. And so I don't take anything personal. You know, I'm not afraid of rejection. I'm not afraid of people. You know, what's the term? Some people be like, oh, they snaked you, right? Yeah. I'm not, it doesn't bother me. It's like I've been given a gift to, you know, the spirit of discernment to tell when someone is being genuine and when they're not. And so being kind to people, regardless of the situation, is actually helpful for me, because I'm not putting no energy into trying to please anyone. Right. I'm not putting no energy into trying to get anyone to enter into this space that I have created, this, you know, this environment that I have created for myself, which is built on transparency, built on love, built on inclusiveness. And so, you know, I have this mindset of like, hey, you're either in or you're out. It's not going to stop the show for me. I'm always keep moving forward. And I think when you hold on to things that have hurt you, it doesn't do anything but hurt the people who are with you, because hurt people hurt people. And so me forgiving those people who have done harm to me, it actually helps me. It doesn't, I haven't forgot about it, but I don't dwell on it either. And when I tell my story, it's only to show people who are going through the same thing or something similar, that you can overcome all of that.
Yeah.
You can still come out on top no matter what. You just got to trust the process.
You know, I was able to witness you a few weeks ago at the Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. Commissioner Gaynor did her quarterly Share My Story series where she brings in leaders to talk to some of the young people there. And I've participated in it too and talked to kids. And the reason I asked that question around forgiveness is you could see the trauma that a lot of them have experienced throughout the course of their young lives, and they're still holding on to it. And oftentimes we don't get exposed to the tools, especially as young African-American children, around therapy and, you know, different outlets to be able to work through some of the issues and traumas that you've experienced. And so I think that that's powerful in that you have been able to really prioritize forgiveness in your own journey, healing journey. And hopefully it inspires some of those young people that may be, you know, one decision away from making a decision that cost them their freedom or their lives, from making a different decision. So I wanted to make sure I gave truth to power with that.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, when I'm around young people, especially young African-American men, right? You know, I see my son's face. I have 3 sons, and 19, 16, and 12. And so when I interact with them, I'm always thinking like it could be my child.
Yeah.
Right? And what is the root cause to this young person being here? And I do this in my service to my constituents. You know, I say this all the time. People just want to be seen and heard. When's the last time this young person was told, I love you?
Yeah.
When was the last time this young person was given a real warm hug? When was the last time anybody just checked and said, are you okay? You know, or you can come to me and tell me whatever it is you need to say.
Yeah.
You need to vent, come vent to me without judgment. You know, and young people can tell just off vibes if the person is genuine or not. You know, I sat at a table of most of the young people who were from my district, and I didn't even know, something just pulled me to that table, right? Because I was going to sit at the first table, and I was like, no, I'm going to sit at this table. Sure enough, these young men were from Lawndale, they were from Garfield Park, they were from Little Village. And I'm just like, well, what have you here? I was meant to sit at this table. And so just having side conversations with them and just telling them like, hey, you know, this is what I've been through. This is where I'm at now. No, I'm not a man, but I can tell you that I understand what you've been through and you can overcome that. And to see how they lightened up when the young man was telling his story on certain scenes, on certain parts of his book, let me know that something about those certain parts resonated with them to where it caught their attention. And I'm like, you know, this is where, you know, when you have a young person actually listening, you have to dig in a little bit more, but also give them time and space to really open up. Because when I was a young person and people were trying to pry in on me, I laughed or I smiled or I just said, oh, no, I'm okay. And I said things like, I just want to be free. And that doesn't mean free as in I just want to get out of this environment. That means I want to go. And I had a young person say that to me this week. And I'm like, I'm about to get you some help because I know what that means because I experienced that. So I was able to identify what that word meant.
Wow.
Yeah.
You touched on it a little bit when you were kind of giving the overview of like your early years going into your earlier adulthood. You went to several different schools before you landed at in Maywood. You were with a foster
Proviso
family.
East.
Proviso East. I went to Proviso West, so you know. Shout out to the Panthers. But you graduated, and even though you were still in the system, you were on your own. You had your own place. You were in school, and then your life changes. You find out that you're pregnant, and now you have to recalibrate to think about how am I gonna provide for this little person that's growing inside of me. Walk us through this time of your life. How did you decide what you were gonna do next?
Ooh, I was scared, honestly. I knew I couldn't go back with family. I didn't think about, welfare or any of those things. Child care, I didn't think about that. my main thing was like, what am I going to do? I don't want my child to end up in the same situation I was in. I didn't know who to trust. My caseworker kept changing because the older you get in the child welfare system, and especially when you're going towards emancipation, your caseworker, tends to change a lot.
Yeah.
Which is a problem. And so I think I was on maybe like my third or fourth one at that time. She was a blessing. And she gave me a choice. I chose to keep my child. And I chose to focus on him full time. But I also knew that at 21, I was going to need a job.
Yeah.
And so people don't know this, but I was actually a fast food worker first. I worked at the Burger King in Brickyard.
Okay.
And then I worked at the Taco Bell on Sir Mac and Cicero. I did.
So you've been working with people in multiple capacities.
Exactly. I had a good time, right? Which is why I understood why it was important to have a union when I landed with a healthcare job that also was a union job. So it was my first union job. And I understood the big difference because you either came in or you got fired. Yeah. And that was my job working in the Brickyard, and even when I went to Taco Bell. And so before I worked in a nursing home, I then did home care services while I was pregnant with my first son. That didn't go so well because I needed a car and I was traveling, but I was like 6-7 months pregnant. And I'm like, this is not going to work. I might as well just do this CNA training, go ahead and get my certification. And the weird thing about, it's funny now, but when I got hired at the nursing home, I really didn't get hired.
Okay.
I started working on the floor before I actually got hired. So
now walk me through that.
Oh, I'm about to walk you through it because I'm serious. So I remember sitting at home and I was saying to myself, like, man, I need a job. I got to find a job ASAP because I'm about to emancipate. I'm 20 now, right? And I'm going on 20. And so called this nursing home on 45th and Cicero. And the receptionist, for whatever reason, she thought that I already got the job because I was asking her the color of the uniforms and, hey, when do you come in for? I don't know what I was thinking, honestly. But the questions I was asking her, I guess she was irritated that day. She was just like, look, you got to come in for orientation. It's going to be on Tuesday. You need this color. I'm like, color for what? She like, the uniform. I'm like, oh, it's sky blue. Where do I get that from? She was like, girl, you go to Walmart, wherever, blah, blah, blah. You going to meet with this lady. I'm like, okay, fine, So I go in like I'm hired.
Already dressed?
Man, dressed in the uniform and everything. And the HR lady just like gave me this packet. I'm filling it out. I put down $20-some an hour because I just assume, okay, we taking care of our seniors.
Yeah.
I used to help my grandma when I was a kid get ready for dialysis. So I'm like, this is going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah.
And then the training, 6 weeks. And I'm like, okay, this ain't nothing. I got it. But that wasn't the case. I literally put down $20-some an hour. At the time, we were only making, I think it was like $8.42. They had just got a raise. And I didn't even know that, but they just got a raise. And long story short, I'm working on the floor for about a week and a half. Got a whole assignment and everything, name on the schedule and all. The DON calls me down to the office out of nowhere. When I sat down, I said, yes, ma'am, how can I help you? And she was like, how can I help you? Who hired you? And I was like, the lady from HR. I ain't gonna say her name. And she was like, did you meet with me? And I was like, well, no, I didn't. I came in and they just gave us these packets. We filled them out. She punched me in, gave me a little purple book. And she was like, ma'am, first of all, I never interviewed you. She has no record of interviewing you. I'm trying to figure out, how did you know about the job and blah, blah. I said, well, I called. And the lady at the front, she was like, you know what? She like literally closed her eyes on me. This is a black woman. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, what is going on? I was like, well, ma'am, I didn't work the assignment. I love the job. She was like, is something wrong with this picture? You didn't think you needed to interview with anybody? You thought you just come in and just start working? I was like, well, I was with the girls. We trained for a couple of days. But yeah, everything is fine. And she was like, well, I haven't gotten any complaints. You have gotten some compliments. But what makes you think you're going to get paid $22 an hour? And I was like, well, ain't that how much y'all pay the certified nurses assistant? She was like, no, baby, it's $8.42. And I was like, $842, how am I supposed to pay my rent? She was like, you tell me how you supposed to pay your rent. That's how I got hired. And I ended up being there for 11 years. 11 years at that job.
You could say you manifested it because you walked in, you already had the uniform on.
It was weird, like, because I had never, no one has ever taught me that.
Yeah.
And so, but these are things that when you're in the child welfare system and you're going for emancipation, they're supposed to teach you all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to prepare you, which is why I do a lot of policies around this, because I have the experience, the lived experience, and I know how it affected me, you know, when I was on my journey. And so, but it was a blessing because, again, I got hired and it's been on since then. So
how did you decide CNA? Was that something you had been interested in, or?
Nope.
Okay.
My dream was to be a lawyer. And one of my other dreams were to, you know, be a detective. So I had a couple of dreams, but all of them was centered around helping people.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of was something that I just fell into, honestly. It was something I already knew because, again, when I was a young person, I used to have to help my grandmother with my sister, get her up for dialysis in the morning. We used to have to give her food. She was paralyzed on one side.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to button up her shirts and things. So all the basic skills, I had already had those in me. The bedside manners, I already had that. The compassion for helping other people, I learned how to do that before helping myself. So it all just came naturally. It's something that I did fall in love with. I worked on a memory care unit most of my time there. And so I'm good with being, you know, a comedian. I
know.
Cracking jokes and stuff. But what made me really, really dive deep in was the working conditions, the environments that the seniors lived in.
Mm-hmm.
So me advocating on behalf of the seniors and the workers became a skill that I didn't even know I had in me, but it really showed over the years. And then the union just pretty much helped me to build some more skills around that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I actually that was actually the perfect segue. So you ended up going to work for the union. So you started working for SEIU Healthcare.
Yeah, that came after a while. So I had been doing a lot of work in the nursing home. I became a union steward after I received 18 write-ups, unjust write-ups.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're the new person on the job, of course, you know, it's like this hazing period, I guess. But also, I was young. I just had a baby. I was 20. And first real job in a facility where I had to take care of other human beings. I had already seen red flags walking through the door.
Mm-hmm.
And so the union didn't do nothing but just empower me with the education on how to organize my colleagues. And so I received these 18 write-ups. How I found out was the DON coming to me and saying, hey, you got all these write-ups. And I started reading them, and I'm like, wait a minute, I wasn't even here that day. So me being who I am an investigator. I like to look things up. So I started looking at my schedule and looking at the dates that were on the write-ups that they claim I had, you know, did certain things on. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't even here. So how did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Found out we had a union steward, didn't know she was cool with management, didn't know that the manager was dating my colleague who she felt that I was messing with when I wasn't. He just likes me. And it was a case of me being targeted. And all of that blew up because I was asking the union steward, like, hey, what about my grievance? She kept telling me, oh, it's coming. Before you know it, 6 months passed, still didn't get a grievance. And I'm like, you know, I want to know what's going on. These write-ups are not true. And mind you, I'm someone who, again, people lied on, people mistreated.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to always try to prove my word because you're not going to do that.
You, at this point, have always had to advocate for yourself.
Yeah. And so a colleague in the kitchen, Ms. Scott, gave me a book. It was a union contract. We had just merged around that time. So I read the contract front to back at home, breastfeeding my baby. And I felt so empowered because I'm like, wait, this write-up is bad. This is unjust. I'm getting all these torn up. And I did. And it got around to the nursing home. And next thing I know, I become a union steward. And so as a union steward, your job is to protect the contract. A lot of people get that misconstrued. They think that it's to protect them, but it's not. It's to protect the contract because the contract is binding agreement between the employer and the labor union. And so I found a lot of discrepancies and write-ups. So I started challenging them, started contacting the labor board, and I was winning a lot of cases. I was winning a lot of people their money back that was mistreated throughout the years. And that started to give me a lot of name recognition. And so you won't believe it, but Alderman Desmond Yancey, who was working for SEIU at the time, called me out on my very first internship. He's like, man, I heard about you and I just want to put your skills to the test. And it took off from there.
Yeah.
I met one of my mentors, Shaba Andrich, and we sat in this room full of other leaders. And he was just like, one of you are going to be on staff one day. One of you going to be on the e-board. One of you going to be the president of this union. Only one of you are going to survive these internships. And I got on the executive board where I made decisions of where the money goes, where we started to do strikes because I took a stance. Like, we can't ask nursing home workers to raise their union dues and we ain't got no contract.
Yeah.
And so we did 5,000 member strike. And I'm glad that I helped to spearhead that campaign. Fight for 15. I went to New York, met with those workers, brought the blueprint back. Yeah, we had the McDonald's workers who were like the face, but we branched off and it became a fight for everybody who was a low-wage worker to set the standards to compete in the market, because the minimum wage doesn't mean that that's it. That means that this is the minimum. You can pay me higher. And then I led other, fights, working with Dreamers to protest Alex when Trayvon Martin was murdered. I did a lot of work at Freedom Summer, worked with people from SNCC. I mean, I've done a lot. So when I showed up here on the scene, people thought that, oh, she's just a union candidate, and they didn't realize that, no, I come with a lot of baggage, good trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One, I just have to speak to the fact that growing up, you were told that you weren't going to amount to anything. To now, you're the face of these campaigns where you are advocating for thousands of people.
Yes, that I don't even know.
That you don't even know.
And been across many different states, fighting and working and learning from other movements, and bringing it back here to Chicago.
How did you deal with that now newfound responsibility? I know part of it is obviously learning on the job, learning about union contracts, but now you are the face of these larger campaigns. How do you deal with that newfound responsibility? And was that something that you wanted to do? Did you start to see that as a pathway in terms of your own personal career elevation?
So I was always told, my grandmother's cousin, we call him Uncle Van. He was the one who still wore bell bottoms, even in the 90s.
We all got Uncle Van.
He would show up on the 3rd of the month, particularly around the time Soul Train to be on, give us all a couple of dollars. He was the one who used to hang out on Madison playing dice and stuff back in the day. But he always used to tell me, you're going to be somebody. I see it in you. You're a debater. And he was like, whatever you're going to be good at it. I could tell, I could see that. You're quiet. Because I was quiet as a young person because I kept a lot in. But like I told you, I was a dreamer. So I always thought about I always thought way ahead of my time. And so I didn't think that I would be in those different spaces. I would be the head or the face of those different campaigns. And so, but that was because people saw something in me.
Yeah.
Because there were some situations where I was blackballed because, it just is what it is. But, my mentor came back around and said, no, we can't lose her. Because no matter where they tried to put me, I still overexceeded.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because, one, I didn't finish school, so I don't have a college degree. I've always considered myself as the underdog, the person that people always try to overlook. Never hung out in cliques. One of my colleagues told me that I'm a selective social person. That's not true. I'm low-key an introvert. People don't know that. But
I wouldn't get introvert from you either.
Really? I'd be drained when I go home.
You have such a friendly demeanor when you come across you cracking jokes.
It's like when I'm in the moment, I'm in the moment.
Yeah.
But other than that, I like to be at home. Seriously, man. I'd be at home, minding my business. And peace. at home. But no, I think what it was too was just that like I wanted to prove that I belong in those spaces, that I didn't have to say all the fancy words to get my point across, and that my story of being a worker, being someone who come from not even a middle class background, but lived in poverty, overcame all of those challenges, a mother who risked everything, my job, defending other co-workers, stood up to the boss, had multiple wins in doing that, just being fearless, you know, and walking other Black, brown women, immigrant women through all of those fights with no fear, at least visibly, no fear, because I prayed every night, like, please don't let these women lose their job. And being able to overcome all that, knowing that there were other people watching me who looked up to me, who were like, man, Lakesia, you doing it. I wish I could. And I'm like, you can, because I'm going to take you through these steps that I went through. That motivated me a lot. And when I look back and now I see these women in leadership positions with the union, and, you know, they're bringing up other women behind them, I'm like, dang, I didn't think I would have that type of impact.
Yeah.
And then getting calls like, yo, we did this interview with this person, and they said, Lakesia Collins changed my life. You know, it was like, what?
How powerful is that?
And still having nursing home workers that I haven't worked with in the past 5 years call me and like, I need you to help me understand this. And it's like, girl, I ain't been in a nursing home. But remembering, you know, all of those things and being still accessible to them is like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, and some of them just want an event and then me talking them through it, you know. It's a good feeling. It really is.
For them, I think you're probably the shining example of what you could become, because you were doing the same thing that they were doing, and now you're a state senator.
Yeah.
Advocating for now even more people throughout the state of Illinois. So I also wanted to talk about that too.
Thank you.
So let's fast forward a little bit. You've worked in the nursing home, you've worked at the union, you've become the face of these public fights, and then it's now 2019 and you hear about State Representative Art Turner is decided not to run again. And now the question is whether you're going to run. And so I'd imagine you are thinking through what most folks that are contemplating running for office are thinking. Can I raise the money? Can I do this? But you ultimately decided to throw your name into a hat and ran in a crowded field. So walk me through your decision making for that. As you were kind of moving up the ranks in the union world, did you start to think about running for elected office? Did it seem like a natural progression, or like walk me through your decision making around it?
No, I never wanted to run for public office. No, I'm serious. So 2019, where was I? Unions for All in California. And right before I was going to California, actually, I was a racial justice facilitator. So I just want to back up just a little bit. 2016 election, you know, I was pretty much as the child care advocate at that time. I was meeting with Hillary Clinton, who was a candidate, and at the same time, Bernie Sanders. They both tweeted about me. I dropped out from being Team Hillary due to the fact she wasn't for 15. That's how hardcore I am about my values and what I was fighting and what I'm fighting for.
Yeah.
Remember, I worked on a job starting at 8:42. After 11 years, I was only at 10:35. So I didn't even reap the benefits of getting to 15 or even the raises that nursing home workers got today at $24, $26 an hour from legislation I passed and reforms that I have been doing for years prior to even getting to the General Assembly as a rep. And so when it got down to that, I'm like, baby, I'm on baby 3 at the time in 2016. The rent is too damn high. I'm constantly getting an eviction notice. You said in my face and said you were for 15 and then you announced you were going to do 12. Now I can't support that. And so it ruffled some feathers, but my union, because they trusted me and my leadership, I started to work with the national union at that time. And I was over, I think, New Orleans, Local 21 LA. I was helping them to build their membership around elections. New York, I had a site there. Cali, I had a site there. And I was over the one here in Chicago, and then I had Detroit. Built some really good relationships with those folks. And so what happened with Mike Brown, we had members in Ferguson, and I also created our Future Fighters, which was independent of the union. Because, see, we could do and say what we wanted. So, because we were young people, and I was demanding that young people were brought into that space and put in leadership positions because we saw how the industry was changing. A lot of our elders were starting to retire, and more young people were coming into the labor space. And I'm like, as a young person, we need to have some say in what's going on. And so they charged me with the opportunity to build a young person's organization. New York had one, Purple Gold. We were the Future Fighters here in Chicago. And then we shared our other locals with Indiana, Missouri, and Kansas. And so our members from there, we got on a joint letter to our international president at the time, Mary Kay. And we said, we fight around everything else. We fight around social justice. We're fighting around immigrant rights and things of that nature. We need to be talking about racial justice and social and economic justice, all three simultaneously, because that is something that even I understood as a young person with Martin Luther King. Is that when he realized that, we got voting rights, but we don't have economic opportunity. Is when,
and how they're all influenced.
How they're all influenced by one another. And so they took it. And so I became a racial justice facilitator. And right before we went to the conference, I think at that point in time, I was at a pivotal moment where I was like, you know what, I want to step outside my comfort zone. Believe it or not, I cried in the mirror. And I was just like, God, I'm a really spiritual person. So I'm like, God, whatever you have in store for me, I'm going to take it. I'm going to walk through that door. I'm not going to turn down another opportunity, because I was turning down other opportunities to elevate. And it was because I was on a path where I wanted to work my way even further up the ladder through the labor movement. And I think God just had different plans. Never thought about being an elected official. In fact, I thought that elected officials were these perfect people, married, educated, nice house, I thought they were like the most high. Because I see them on TV, or I've been to rallies, I've went to press conferences with them, right? And so I just thought, you had to be a certain way. And so when I was approached before we went to the Unions for All conference by my mentor, I told her, I don't think that's for me. And she was like, what you mean? I was like, because I was like, I got tattoos. I'm not married. Got 3 kids. And I'm hood. And I don't know if they'll accept me. And she said, girl, bye. You are the perfect candidate for this. And I trust that you're going to do the right thing. We're not going to have to hold your hand. We know you're going to do the right thing. Because, again, I told you I stood up against my own union a couple of times. And it wasn't with no ill feeling. It was just me just being honest about how I felt with what we were doing at the moment. And they trusted it, And so, and I think that speaks to anyone who has some leadership roles, that people, they have to trust you in order to follow you. And so I went home, talked to my boys. They didn't understand what it was. They didn't, state rep, what is that? And I was like, that means I'm living my life in the public. Anything you do, people are going to take it. They're going to do whatever they want to do with it.
Oh, yeah, it's a microscope.
But if I win, our lives are going to change. I don't see us, being famous or anything. But, we just have to remember that we're going to be in the public eye. And my kids, they were little, so they were like, yeah, mommy, go ahead and do it. And I'm like, And so I prayed on it, and she was telling me, like, the clock is ticking, girl. We jumping in late. What do you want to do? Whatever it is, we'll support you. And I said, you know what? I'll do it. I thought about it. When I realized the West Side, the West Loop, the connection, and I'm like, oh my God, I remember taking this ride to Cook County Juvenile Detention Center, or the court to, divorce my family. I remember, being over here on Pulaski across from the expressway. I remember the Save-A-Lot store. I remember all of this stuff. I'm like, this is a full circle. Yeah, of course I'll represent it, right? And once I did that, it was on from there. And funny story, I'm looking at the camera. I met Art Turner on the door, Jr. I was getting petitions. I had never seen him before then. And so me being who I am, he walked up, he was really nice, and he was just like, you must be Lakesia. And I'm like, you know my name, who are you? And he was like, I'm Representative, I'm Leader Turner. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, you fat. You know what I said? And the guy who was signing my petition was like, yeah, that little Art, you know what I mean when you was little? I'm like, yeah, sign a petition. I was like, they told me you just got married, you know?
Your mind was somewhere else.
It was somewhere else. He just got this beautiful smile. Like, honestly, they all do. They just got beautiful smiles. And, you know, he just told me, he's like, you know, it's nothing personal or whatever, but you know I'm going to be with my brother. I was like, and I totally understand. Your brother look like you. I totally understand, you know? And I'm sorry. And, but they're good people. I didn't take anything personal with the race. Didn't even know what to expect, honestly, because I was zero focused on my message, who I was, and people getting to know me for me. So
how did you kind of build out what your message would be? I know you had obviously been fighting on behalf of like unions and workers, but now you are on the spotlight and they are assessing everything about you, your life, your ability, and you're in a crowded field. And so what was it in terms of messaging that was like, I'm going to make sure that I stand out around everybody else?
That's what I love about my union. I love this about my union, SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, because I was a part of everything with my messaging, how I wanted my signs to look, my pictures, all of that. It was like me. I had a lot of say, and it was always, what do you want? Is this okay? What, you know, how do you want to show up here? And blah, blah, blah. So I had a lot to do with it, and it was really my story being told just on pamphlets. The goal was to be in front of any and everybody because the constituents are not in those rooms, right? They're not at these events. All of my constituents are not in churches, but I heard a lot of people say, you got to go to the church, you got to go to the church. I remember my grandmother, Cosette Collins, I'm sorry, my mother's middle name is Lucille. I remember my grandmother saying, as a young person hearing her talk about it, church and politics, she said, you don't miss it too. I hate when a politician show up to church asking for a vote. I would rather them knock on my door. And that stuck with me in that moment. And I don't know why, I just kept playing in my head. So whenever someone would say, well, you need to come to this church and you know, the church get behind you. And I'm like, yeah, with all due respect, I'm gonna meet the congregation on the door. And so I was focused on the door. And I didn't let anybody else distract me. When it came down to the messaging, because of all the people who were in the race, which was majority black folks, my main thing was we not down in nobody. I'm not giving no power to nobody's name. I'm not throwing out nobody dirty laundry until they attack me first, but I'm not going there. But I thought it was important to tell my story because just like any campaign I ran, inoculation is the key. So I'm going to talk about my own business. I'm going to let you tell my story because you ain't going to tell it all because you don't know it all. So I'm going to talk about being a single mom, what that feel like, being in those long lines at the public aid office, what it feels like to get an eviction notice, barely being able to pay my bills. I'm going to talk about what that is. I'm going to talk about how much money I got paid, and I'm going to talk about, you know, the unbalanced power between the people who are impacted by these policies the most. I'm not going to down nobody's leadership. I've never had to do that. Even when I was on the doors, I didn't have to do that. I talked about me and the vision I wanted to bring to the district. And I never made a promise because I never make promises I can't keep. I told people, I want to show you how to engage with government in a different way. And that is what it's been since day one.
Okay.
Clearly, love it.
Clearly it was a strategy that worked.
Because I believe in that, you know? And yeah, it works for me.
So now you run in this crowded field and you win. And Art Turner actually stepped down early, so you were appointed to fill the remainder of his term before you started your term. So now you're Representative Lakesia Collins. And so how did you decide Well, let me back up. One, what was your first thought when you actually won the race, and then now the real work starts. Right now, you go into Springfield and you have the microphone now to be able to craft legislation in from the perspective of a legislator. So how do you walk me through that?
Well, the day I voted for myself for the first time, seeing your name on a ballot is something that I just can't really describe. Mm-hmm. That morning at 6 a.m., I went to the cemetery, though, to see my mom. And I remember the sun came out bright as ever that day. And I was just like, you know what, Mom? I made this crazy decision to run for office. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If it's not, it's not. I just want you to know your baby girl tried. And, I'll be the first in the family to be an elected official. I won't fail you. And so I just wanted to come back and let you know that I need you. I know you've been here with me all these years, but if it's not meant to be, I understand. But I love you, and I went and voted for myself. So when we won, the pandemic it was already out there.
Yeah.
I think Trump was saying that it was a hoax at the time, but people were getting sick left and right. And mind you, prior to, I was still a nursing home rep at that time. And so I was watching bodies, just piling on top of each other prior to me resigning from the job and then going full throttle on the campaign. And so, when I won the election, didn't have a celebratory party because the mask restrictions, the distance and stuff like that. So it never really had a chance to celebrate that milestone, right? Even to this day.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I missed out on that part. And then when I finally get the title, State Representative Lakesia Collins, and got the microphone, I was like, I ain't no turning back now. This ain't a job where I can just be like, I'm clocking in, clocking out. This is me 24/7. And Springfield ain't never had a voice like mine, but they're going to hear it. And I ain't going to be silent. So my first piece of legislation was a land transfer. I was completing a piece of legislation that Representative Leader Turner had prior to. They hazed me a little bit. It went well. But after that, again, I had this thing over my head where people thought she's just going to be a union candidate. So I purposely did the total opposite. I carried a lot of different bills,
that
controversial bills,
yep.
That they didn't think that I should carry. I was going through a whole transition phase. We were doing the 4 pillars at that time. And then we were trying to elect a new speaker. Mm-hmm. And the speaker was Speaker Welch. And so that was a part that, I played a part in. And I looked to him, too, for some guidance on some pieces of legislation. He helped me out a lot on that. But he let me just be me. He did. He allowed me to be myself. I think that when you are someone who, walk into any new space, people are trying to figure you out. They're trying to figure out, like, what's your buttons or, what are your real intentions and things like that. So I like to have those conversations with folks. And I think with Speaker Welch, I was able to go in and tell him, like, these are my priorities. This is what I really care about. And him being a leader, new in his role, I think, to me, it didn't seem like a challenge for him. Mm-hmm. Like, he automatically knew, like, this is where she would excel, And so I just used my natural instincts on a lot of things, and I haven't shut up since. And I've learned from a lot of my colleagues, too, who have been there for a while. So, yeah. But it's a surreal feeling. It's bittersweet in some cases.
Yeah.
Still, like, I can't believe I'm here. But I also don't know where I would be had I not took the path that I took to get here.
So at this point, you spend 3 years in the House, and you're killing it. You're leading legislation. You're moving up in leadership in the Black Caucus. Mm-hmm. And then you hear about now former State Senator Patricia Van Pelt has decided not to run for re-election. Did you feel like the Senate was the natural progression, or were you kind of like, oh, I'm good in the House. I'm learning. I'm getting my feet wet. Walk us through I guess, the jump into the Illinois State Senate.
Yeah, so our former senator, she had already, had been talking to me about my leadership, and I carried some legislation for her in the House a few times, collaborated with her on a couple of things, and she had called me. I heard some rumors about her retiring, but it wasn't like I was like, oh man, it's my opportunity to go to the Senate, because I was happy in the House. I mean, the House is a really good place to build up your leadership skills, and you're really independent too in both chambers. But I learned a lot being in the House, honestly. But when it became a real thing, it had became a moment where I was thinking about all the work that I have done in the 9th District and what that meant for the entire district. Can I do this across the 5th Senate District?
Yeah.
Can I, connect the entire West Side and, also maintain the other parts to this district? Will I have the capacity to do it? Would I have the strength to do it? The willpower? Yes. I've never backed down from a challenge. And so, she called me again. She said, hey, I'm really going to step down. I really think you should do it. I've seen how much you love the people. I know you're going to do a great job. Just think about it. And so I went through the same process again. I thought about it, and then I asked my inner circle what they thought. I was back and forth a little bit. And that was only because, again, when you build yourself, when you get into leadership in the House, you want to keep it going.
Yeah.
And I knew that going to the Senate, you got to start all over again. So I thought about the pros and the cons, like, oh man, we got to go back to seniority stuff again. And then people, And then I started thinking about the greater good. I started thinking about the constituent.
Yeah.
And that's what prompted me to say, you know what, I'm going to go in. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. And that's just been my mindset throughout life, period. And so I made a lot of calls. I called, folks who I've supported, because that's what you have to do. Some people think that you just get handpicked, and it didn't work that way with me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I had already had a trip planned. So people who were on the outside looking in was like, oh, she ain't serious. Yes, I was, because I didn't enjoy my trip for 2 days. I was making calls. I was meeting with committee men. I heard no a couple of times for some folks. It's a numbers game. And so I, did what I had to do with the numbers. I was like, okay, I know they're going to do this. I'm going to just go over on this side and start messing with these folks. I'm going to call them, beg over here. And it did. It worked out. And that was a moment for me, too, because I didn't bring my kids with me because I just knew I wasn't going to get it.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit hurt by that, because this would have been their first time seeing me being sworn in, to another position. And so I cried because I knew I wasn't going to get it. I felt that way, honestly. So when I got done doing my spiel and they went in the back to, do whatever they need to do, and they came back out, I actually sat in the back of the room off to the side because I didn't want to be embarrassed.
You're like, I'm about to be by the door.
So I went off to the side, I had a lot of support there. Shout out to all my support, Box Out Activity, Monique, all the one, Monique Scott, all of y'all. But I sat to the side, and I'm just like, man, they finna tell me no. And so then when the lawyer came on the side, and I honestly didn't hear him. I just saw some guy sitting on his knee with some paper, and because you got to resign right away. And so I looked and I said, "What you say?" And I heard some lady say, "Oh, she must have got it." And I was like, "What you say?" He was like, I said, "Congratulations, Senator Lakesia Collins," and I just burst out into tears. And man, it was just like, what? And I cried like a baby. That was the first time I did a public ugly cry. because I have no family there. Yeah. My kids wasn't there. And I was just like, what? Because I've never went through that before. All of this stuff is new to me. So I just didn't expect it to happen or come out of my favor. And it did. And I'm super grateful for that. And because of the way it went down, I've been very intentional about making sure that I try to amend whatever relationships, because relationships are important.
Yeah.
I ain't
especially in this
begging
space.
for them, but they important,
Yeah.
you know. And so I'm just always somebody that like to amend relationships if I feel that there's some disrupt there.
So now you've been in the Senate for 2 years,
Going on 2.
and you are also the joint chairman of the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus.
Yes.
So you Chairman Collins as well, Chairwoman Collins.
Yes.
So what have been some of your biggest accomplishments, not only as senator but also as joint chair?
So for senator, I think that my first year there, give a lot of respect to President Don Harmon. What I could say about his leadership, he really do show up for his members. Because again, I walked into some mess, and he was like, "What do you need, Lakesia?" I was like, "I need a lot of stuff," and he has a really good team. And so he really helped me out that first session, and even this past session, he helped out a lot. And you know, I owe that to him. I owe it to leaders like, you know, Leader Sims, you know, Lyford, you know, Leader Hunter, even Doris Turner, Senator Turner, like, you know, just her and Senator Belt, like they all just played a big role, because I think that, and I've heard this from, you know, people like Senator Lyford, you remind me of myself when I first started. You know, this little fireball.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, okay. And so
Yeah, y'all actually do got some similarity.
yes. But I love how she show up.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause she got that baby voice, but you also know that behind that baby voice come some real power.
Yeah.
So I do respect her a lot. As the joint chairwoman, I would say that I've already had relationships from the House, which is a plus for me in the Senate because I've already built relationships with my colleagues on the House side. The Senate side, I'm still learning. A lot of my colleagues, I know some of them, of course, from past work, but I'm really, really getting to know a lot of them now. And so I think for me, I still look at some of my colleagues like I would in the space of organizing as if I was going into a nursing home and I was doing an assessment, right?
That makes sense.
And so it does, but not to some of them. They think that I'm just like, oh, you tripping. No, I'm not. I'm telling you what I see. We're more powerful when we're one, when we're together.
Yeah.
But I also, as the leader of the caucus, you know, you have to understand each district and they're different and where each member is coming from. All of them are leaders. You can't treat them like they're just members.
Yeah.
You got to realize you're dealing with some experienced folks. So it's a certain way you got to talk to them. There's a certain way you got to pull them in. And so oftentimes I find myself asking them for advice more than I'm giving the advice, right? And I think this past session, what we've seen that's a little bit different is bringing more community down to Springfield to support the Black Caucus. I'm thinking more about, so my thought as an organizer is we're thinking about numbers. It's 34 of us, yeah, that's powerful in perception, but where's the community behind you?
Yeah.
So I'm always intentional about how I'm building power. And so bringing folks from different parts of the state that we represent down to Springfield and making them more active and coming, where they're like, I got to be in Springfield because the Black Caucus is doing a soiree, or the Black Caucus is doing this, or the Black Caucus is about to address the governor. Like, you got to make people, train people mindset, and you have to make it more accessible because we have a big disconnect from our work that we do in Springfield versus our constituents back at home.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why a lot of the times when you have these negative ads out there, it's easy for people to believe them because they're not there. It's not like City Hall where you can go down there and watch your alderperson in session. You got to travel 3.5 miles to get to Springfield to even see the work that we're doing and how impactful that work is, or how much we play a role in the funding that goes to Cook County, the city, our parks, and et cetera. So, you know, I was very intentional about that this past session under my leadership and working with the co-chairs, and the need to continue to increase our presence from our community down there. And it's been a lot of great feedback. I think any type of change, people will always be a little bit hesitant to it because it's the unknown. And I saw that even working in nursing homes, building power there. A lot of members, you have those who cater to the boss, who feel like, oh, the boss is more superior. So if I tell the boss what's going on, I'm gonna get a brownie point. And it shows up everywhere, right? Or you have folks that be like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And then when it's time to do it, they like, wait a minute, brother. You didn't say, so I see those same behaviors play out. But I think we've done a lot of great work this past session with safeguarding our safety net hospitals, with a lot of them being on the brink of closing, the things that are happening from the federal government with slashing Medicaid and SNAP. Our communities are going to hurt the most from that.
Absolutely.
When you think about DEI, there's a lot of mixed feelings around that. But what people don't understand is that with DEI in place, that's where a lot of our money came from corporations to help send our young Black kids to college, which we struggle to do that. Because you taking away stuff that you feel like, oh, it doesn't benefit Black folks. It may have not done it in the way that it was intended to, but it has made a lot of progress, and it has funded a lot of the things that we need. And so when you remove these things that people had literally fought and died for, and you just don't understand how it plays a role in your life every day, but now it's gone, you realize that you actually fought against yourself. And so, we've done a lot of safeguarding with the safety nets, making sure that our workforce development funding was still there, doing everything that we can to make sure that our EBF funding is still intact, and then also giving some relief to homeowners, especially our seniors. And then we're going to continue to build on that progress. Right now, we are looking to do some legislation around housing to add on to our pillars, and then also clean energy too. When we think about environmental justice, we're not talking about what that looks like in the Black community, like specifically in the Black community, and how the toxic, the air quality, how bad that has gotten in a lot of our communities, right? And so our folks, we want to know about that. We talk about it, but there's no real layout or plan that's like in black and white, where folks can actually point to and say, this is what we're bringing back to the Black community as it pertains to clean energy or as it pertains to environmental justice. To address the asthma, address all these other infections that we're getting just because of the pollution that we're breathing in every day.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're looking into now to add on to the 4 pillars.
What have been some of your biggest challenges?
As far as what, state senator or?
I would say state senate.
Man, there's an old saying that you have to be careful of who send someone to you.
Come on.
Okay?
That's a word.
I will tell you, the moment I moved over to state senator, drama has arrived. Drama. Okay? I don't know who y'all sending, but God is removing them. No, seriously. A lot of weird stuff, right? I would say the biggest challenge is, I don't know if there is a really big challenge. I think that I'll go further into this. Everybody represents differently. I think that for me, being an organizer, being somebody who has the lived experience that I have, I just see the world differently. I am a strong-minded Black woman unapologetically. I am not going to be silent to make you comfortable. I feel that it's those uncomfortable situations that actually brings the education that's needed, or clarity to certain things or light to certain issues. And so for me as a state senator, what I've learned in this past year and a half is that you have to be careful who you allow in your circle. And I've always been very cautious of that. I think I've opened up a little bit more because the district is bigger, and realizing that we don't have enough staff because we don't get enough funding to staff people or pay them the quality wages that they deserve. But it also opens up the door for people to disguise themselves, wolves in sheep clothing too. And because I'm able to identify certain things, I catch those red flags and I'm like, nah. My main thing about me and my team is I know what I hear on the doors. I know what I heard when I first ran. And for me, I'm a hands-on legislator. Whether it's political season or not, I'm going to hit some doors.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to people because I know issues change. One of my mentors, shout out to Sharon McCormick, is people want to be seen and heard. And so if they're not seen or heard, that creates the chaos. That creates the rumors. That creates this, narrative that this person just shows up for a signature or for a vote. Mm-hmm. People deserve way more than that. And as you can see now, people are tired of the same old. People are tired of folks telling them what they need to do and not addressing their needs. And when I think about being a public servant, it's more than just handing out food. It's about, bringing real solutions, listening to what the person is saying, working with them, walking them through the process, educating them on how to pass a budget. How the budget process works, how bills are being passed. What does this mean when people talk about, we got to go through this committee and, things of that nature?
Because a lot of people don't know that it's the process.
They don't know. And there are folks out there taking advantage of them because they sound right.
Yeah.
And they're around a lot of elected officials. So people be like, oh, yeah, this person is right. No, there's more to it than that. And so I use my time to actually walk people through the process. And a lot of times they'll say, I didn't even know that. Because nobody wanted to teach you that.
Yeah.
And I believe that our job is to educate them too. Our job is to help them understand how government works so that they're not confused or they don't have this unnecessary, anxiety or unnecessary, frustration that causes high blood pressure that ultimately causes death. Government should work for the people, period. And so that has always been my main thing in this role, is to make sure that my people know what I'm doing and why it's so necessary, and to talk about things that may be uncomfortable. Why not?
As you look back over your journey, like your early years as a union organizer, as a worker in the healthcare industry, as a legislator, was there a moment for you that you think to yourself, I wouldn't be where I am had I not gone through this? And if so, what's that?
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be in politics had I not answered that call to go on an internship with the union. Because my union is 90% political because their workers are public workers. They work for the state, right? Yeah. You talk about home care workers, child care, nursing home, and hospitals. So I literally went through this whole, Bronner administration when he slashed child care. I lost my child care provider. Where he slashed the Don score, where workers were laid off, seniors were left without home care aides, where child care providers were left without having any, clients and things of that nature. I lived through that moment, right? And so I remember that. And I think that my advocacy throughout those years, it was all in the making without me even knowing it. Because there was so much content for them to build off of through my campaign. And it's so much more out there that at one point my mentor, Shaba, said, well, at your forum, tell them to Google you. You're the only one they can Google because you've done the work. You didn't just pop up. You've done the work. And that's true.
That's the real flex, let me say.
Yeah, but I didn't realize how much I was doing.
Yeah.
And even today, as a legislator, a lot of my constituents who I love, they always tell me, slow down. When do you sleep? I do sleep. People just don't know that. I do sleep.
When you go to Cancun?
No, and I barely take, look, I've only been on 2 vacations out of 5 years.
Yeah,
for 2 days.
I need you to get a vacation.
I know it's coming, but I consider myself to be a worker.
Yeah,
I'm used to that worker mentality.
Yep.
You just push through, but trust me, I meditate. I get my church on when I can. I definitely, I get sleep. Trust me, I get sleep. People just don't know it, but I do. It's like clockwork, But yes, there are times where I look back and I say, man, had I not answered that call, I would not be here. I don't know where I would be, honestly, had I not got super involved in the nursing home work that I was doing.
We're glad you did.
Thank you.
I got 2 more questions for you. What do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, man. Ugh. I really don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I know what I'll be probably known for.
Okay.
Flipping tables. I'm joking. Definitely
She
for
was about to flip this table.
definitely for my child care advocacy, DCFS reform. I'm very adamant about that. Very. My work around that, being known to change a system that has forever changed the life of so many people,
Including your own.
including my own.
And then last question is, who is Lakesia Collins in your own words?
I am a very sarcastic, but good in a good way, funny, resilient, very loyal person, very outspoken. Very outspoken. I'm just a regular laid-back person, just blessed to be in a position to help, thousands of people on a larger scale. And I'm always going to remain myself while doing this work. I believe that our lived experience really shape who we are, but also that sometimes you can get lost in the limelight, and that's something that I don't ever want to happen to me. So I always remain, true to myself. And I have people around me who remind me of that every day.
There was a reason why I wanted you on the show. And I think that you've embodied that throughout the course of this conversation. I think so often, especially young people, you see leaders and you have no idea the journey that they had to go through in order to get to where they are. You see a moment on Instagram, or you see somebody at a press conference, and you're able to draw your own conclusion about their story. And so when you see someone like you that experienced the things that you've experienced and could have gone a completely different direction, for you to have really devoted your life to really serving and advocating on behalf of others, I think for me, as somebody that knows you, as somebody in this space, but also as a Chicagoan, like, I want to say thank you, because you could be doing a whole bunch of things. And for you to be young and really shattering ceilings, breaking barriers, and changing outcomes, I think that deserves to be celebrated. And so I'm glad that you had a chance to share your story. I'm glad folks have a chance to hear your story. But I want to thank you for that work. And I want to thank you for leading the fight and being a voice for the voiceless, because you can see why some people oftentimes feel like their voices aren't being captured. But knowing that they have somebody like you that's fighting for them, that's gone through the same type of experiences that they do, I would imagine that makes folks feel a lot more comfortable about who's sitting at the table in Springfield. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that, Corey. And I thank you for all you doing. I mean, from day one, you just always had this nice smile.
Well,
And you're doing big things, too, as a young person. And I love the fact that you're uplifting other young people, too.
Yeah.
And I've watched your podcast. And so I love what you're doing. And thank you for just being yourself.
Thank you for joining today.
Thank you for having me.
This episode of In My Own Words is brought to you by Every Kid's a Superhero by Corey Timms. Available now on Amazon.